Thanks for joining me today on this episode of the Rheumatoid Solutions podcast. I've got a guest with me today who's going to share his improvements with his rheumatoid arthritis. His diagnosis he describes as not too bad when he was first given the option of medications and the future that's typical of RA patients. So he decided to go down a natural path, and results have been phenomenal. So he's going to describe that to us and his journey. His name's Stephen. He is a university lecturer from Romania, and it's a pleasure, Stephen, to welcome you to this episode.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Now, Stephen, why don't we start with the way I like to kick this off, which give us a sort of before and after in a short version before we delve into the long version of the story. Start with, at your worst, what did symptoms look like for you? And now, how do you feel today?
Well, I first discovered it. It was pain in my hands, fingers, and hands when I did some functions, but it wasn't it wasn't terribly serious. So I kind of ignored it. What shocked me into action was I had done some strain on my elbow in the gym. I had, I guess, tennis elbow or tendonitis, and I suddenly looked in the mirror one day, and it was bent. It was bent. So at that point, I went to the doctor and talked about it. And they took some x-rays and some other things. And they prescribed the methotrexate, but it didn't seem that bad to me. I wasn't in pain, and I read about the side effects of the methotrexate, and I thought, well, what's all the fuss about? I don't think it's worth it. And I'd done some research, and I found your program. And but the one thing that bothered me was that the numbers were kind of high. I did the tests, and the numbers were really high. So I did more research, and I found your program at that point. And I said, well, maybe I should do this program just to get the numbers down, blood test, even though I don't feel so bad. By the way, I had ignored all this for about a year. It was going to get worse. But then I did this, and it was dramatic the way the numbers came down. And the pain, I guess it more or less disappeared from my hands a little bit of stiffness in my forefingers, but otherwise, the pain wasn't so bad. And I was doing pretty well.
Awesome. And you gave me those numbers beforehand. We were able to go through this and get a little bit of a table that you've actually charted, and I'm going to get from you after this call, and we'll overlay it here on the screen so people can see the actual data for themselves. If you're watching this online, your rheumatoid factor started out at 128, CCP antibodies 500. Now, they haven't really changed throughout this process, which is interesting of itself. However, your inflammatory markers really trended in an upward way from initially in August 2023, it was 6.3 milligrams per liter, CRP. That went up to as high as 30 milligrams per liter, CRP. And then you started the program in March. And from 30, it dropped down to 2, then 0.6. And then you describe, and I'll get you to go in the details in a minute, a setback that you had where inflammation jumped back up, but it only went up to 10 milligram per liter before you went more hardcore on the program again and got it back down to 2 milligrams per liter. And all your data is in milligrams per deciliter. So if there is a discrepancy and people wondering, hang on, why are the differences on the screen? Is because the Romanian guidelines for C-reactive protein are measured in milligrams per deciliter. So you've got to add 10 to all the numbers to convert it to the US and the Australian, New Zealand standards. So with that, when you noticed that your symptoms were coming down, how quickly did it take once you made lifestyle changes to reduce the numbers?
I had a test from January to March, and very high in January, and then below normal, as I read it, in March. So it came down very fast after doing the initial really Spartan part of the program.
The Spartan part. I've been interviewing people for this podcast for about 8 years. No one's ever called it the Spartan part. I love it. I like the description. That's right. So from January to March, it's come down from 30 to 2. And how did that feel in your body?
By that time, I felt fine. I thought I was doing fine. I was trying to get my elbows straight again for exercises, and I still had the stiffness in my forefingers, and I think I may have had a little, but I don't think there was much pain in my hands otherwise.
Right. So if people are wondering what program you're talking about the Paddison program for rheumatoid arthritis. It's a lifestyle intervention involving diet, exercise, supplements, stress reduction, mindset, omega-6 to 3 ratio, all sorts of different aspects. Of all of those, which did you focus on the most?
I guess I concentrated on the diet the most. Definitely. There wasn't anything else for me really. The supplements were a little hard to find. I was getting pretty good exercise on my own even before that, although I later, tried your exercises and what you recommend, and that's helped a bit. Um, but it was definitely the diet that I had to focus on. That was the most psychologically traumatic.
What were you eating before you changed your lifestyle?
I was eating. I had cut out red meat, and I had tried to cut out fat as much as possible, especially the oils, the seed oils. About 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer in my late 40s. And I discovered at that point that fat is a bad thing in red meat. So I cut them out, and I've had no more trouble. I also had some medical procedure surgery, but I've had no more recurrence of that. And I had a pretty good idea at that point that, I began to get inklings of how important diet was. But I didn't rigorously follow it entirely. I kept eating poultry and fish. And I at this point, then when I discovered your program, I also discovered McDougall, McDougall's, John McDougall, is it? His recommendations. And I found that it really hit me that diet is really behind an awful lot more than I realized of our health problems. And so, that's when I went much more rigorous and I cut out the fish and the chicken, and I was more rigorous, cut out all processed foods and, anything that might have seed oil in it, especially that kind of spooked me figuring out how that was posed. Well, that's manufactured. That was the main thing.
What did you find to be the hardest part of the dietary process?
Well, I have a pretty high metabolism. I'm a thin person. All my life, I've eaten a lot, frequently, snacks, big meals. If I go more than a couple hours, I get hungry. So I'm just enjoying myself when it comes to food. I already cut out the meats and things, but being hungry. And I found ways around that, but that was psychological. I've never had the diet. I've always been thin, but metabolism does give me an appetite quite a lot. So any kind of physical exertion, makes me want to eat. So that was difficult. I'll tell you one thing that made me kind of psychologically has given me comfort in recent months. I discovered, you may know about him, this Harvard geneticist. I think his name is Sinclair, and he's or she's some notoriety because I don't think he has any condition, ailment, both probably. But he started this 6-hour or so, intermittent fasting, eating everything in a 6-hour window and getting exercise and so forth. And, they show pictures of him in his 50s, and he looks younger than he did in his 40s. Before he started, he looks like he was in his 20s. And so everybody is recommending this. He made a big splash on the internet. And psychologically, I found that very heartening because it meant that this diet that I'm, being, that you're prescribing is not it's what we should be doing anyway. It's what we really should be. And I got that a little bit from McDougall's, advice also. It's not some horrible, regime that I have to follow because I have this horrible disease. It's simply forcing me to do what should be doing anyway, as far as eating. So I found that heartening, and I try to keep the window as small as possible in my diet.
Interesting. And what range do you try and eat between?
Well, at first I had trouble just keeping it within a 12-hour range, which you recommended, the 7 to 7, I think, because I'm, I eat and then I have a feeling, I don't know if this causes it, but I have this feeling that late night snacks were, I don't know if it's behind it, but I quite liked having it. I would work in the evening, I'd get hungry around 10 or 11. I would have some cheese usually and some bread, which here is very, very good. And Romania has very high quality, very good wine. So I'm going to bed. Well, why not have some little bread and cheese and a little glass of wine? And, that'll be fine. That had to kind of. So, but what I've been doing lately, and I think it helps a lot, is I don't eat for several hours after I get up. I try not to. Some days I get at 9. Oftentimes I'll go till 11. So, and I think that helps a lot. And then stopping around 7:30, and I think that helps. Sometimes I push it further. Sometimes I go all day. I try on Sundays to go until dinner time and fast, and sort of combine it with religious thinking which friends of mine have recommended to me. So I do that as much as I can. Today, for example, it's now 11:30 here, and I haven't eaten anything, and it'll be afternoon by the time I finish. So, and that doesn't so bad. I can handle that. It's the afternoon and the evening when I'm trying to function. It's a little more difficult. More trying to work like time. In the morning, I'm not always so hungry in the morning anyway, before I move about. So I find that helps a lot, is reducing that window even smaller than what you prescribe as minimal.
Yeah, it has come up before when some people have struggled for many years to eliminate their joint pain completely, and then they've found that tightening up that window really helps. So, um, if it works for somebody, then great. And my feeling is if we're able to keep the window as wide as what I recommend, which is 7 till 7, and we can keep our pain at the lowest possible levels by doing so, then awesome. But if people are looking for that little bit extra to take the pain down that last little bit, then maybe this could be a strategy for other people too, the one that you've just shared. How do you maintain your weight? How do you eat enough in the window so that you can maintain your muscles and also have enough energy to work out?
That's a good question, because I think I am a bit underweight by the standards from prescriptions. What do I do? I eat. I try to eat a fair amount of protein and permitted fat. Sometimes sometimes when my wife's away, I bend the rules a little bit with a small amount of olive oil. And nuts. I've always liked nuts anyway. So I try to eat those help. But that's basically it.
I love it. And I eat a lot of nuts as well. I have that wider window than you do, but I still include nuts in there. And I'm very happy with my body weight. In fact, like I don't have any weight that I want to lose, but I carry just a little bit of belly fat that is only there because, I certainly eat enough, if not more calories than I need. And I work out really hard. So the nuts are such a key reintroduction. Once you can reintroduce nuts into your diet, if you go through this sequence, I love pistachio nuts, not just as a filler food for fat and energy levels, but as a healing strategy. I believe that everyone should eventually get into pistachios eaten regularly. And then the almonds and cashews are a close second. So are you eating those nuts?
Well, almonds, certainly. Some pistachios, perhaps not as much as I should. Some cashews, yeah. You know, and walnuts. And I know what you said about Brazil nuts. I love Brazil nuts. I was heartened by what you said, although then when you got at the end and said, I'm allowed 2 Brazil nuts a day, I was really a little depressed by that. But otherwise, I eat as many nuts as I like.
Go if you want to go crazy on nuts, then make it the pistachios, and your whole world of rainbows will come at once. So, that's awesome. Got it. So, people, you're listening, watching this, encourage you to, if you go through this sequence, this particular step-by-step sequence of our reintroduction process, don't stop at group B, where there's lots of beans and legumes and rice and potatoes and tofu and corn and all sorts of wonderful things that you can eat. Don't stop there. Migrate into the nuts and seeds, because if you want to really have a complete and unrestricted life in terms of a plant-based diet, head into that area as well. So let's see. How's the elbow today? How are the hands today compared to before you started?
Well, the elbow is almost completely pain-free. There is migration around. Yeah, I know you talked about that. There is, but when the elbow stopped, it seems good for all. I should mention, I've had a little bit, from time to time, I have a little pain in my feet, with my toes. I cut out some of the tiptoe exercises here, standing on my tiptoes in bare feet, which you said not to do. So I cut that out, and that's more or less better now. I don't have so much problem with that. I also have a little problem from time to time with itchy skin. Now, I don't know how much that's connected with this condition, but it seems to have coincided with it. I should have mentioned that. So that comes and goes, especially in the cold weather. But that sometimes I go months without that, and then it'll flare up a little bit for a few days. And you asked how the hands are. That's the only stubborn thing right now, is this, especially this hand. And now over the course of the day, it doesn't hurt at all. And this wrist a little bit too. Now, over the course of the day and even at night, sometimes a little pain in the morning, but it's fine. That by the afternoon, it's completely gone. I feel fine. The only thing is when I try to do some exercises. For example, the exercises I do, this is one I do. So I think this came from someone else. This can be a little painful from time to time. It's not now, but it was this morning when I started. That's painful. This is not. This is not. The hand flicks, I think, help. I try to do, I don't know, 4 or 5 a day. Not as many as you say, but I think the hand flicks feel good. They start limbering things up, and they make the pain go away sooner. There's this one I think you said to do just kind of like this. I think this is the way I understood the instructions, which doesn't hurt, but if I go like this, first thing in the morning on this hand, it does. That's it. So in the course of the day, it doesn't bother me, but it's still, bothers me that certain exercises will cause pain from time to time. So it's a little stubborn at the moment. I don't know quite why, but I'm following the regime
and that's it's the knuckle on the pinky finger is the one.
It's actually this. It's back here.
It's the back of the hand.
It's the back of the hand. Yeah, it's the back of the hand. And you'll see I have some.
Oh yeah, you've got like a nodule there. Yeah.
Yeah. And that appeared at the time of the flare in July.
Huh.
That happened. All that appeared in July.
That's a very unusual location. I'm going to have to think about that one, Stephen. I've never seen it there before.
Well, the doctor said it might be what she's called the word she used mechanical rather than synovial. Or I think is what she said. In other words, she implied that it might be from something else rather than from an arthritis.
Yeah. Well,
So
with a rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis with very elevated rheumatoid factor and CCP antibodies, that does not get misdiagnosed. So there's no doubt you've got the RA going on. I'm just questioning that particular issue. We know that when we're running high levels of inflammation, we're more vulnerable to all sorts of various manifestations in the body. And I agree with the doctor. I don't necessarily think that that's synovitis. And I haven't seen pain there like that ever before. And I have seen a lot of different joint problems over the years. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist for other people. I'm just saying that particular one, very uncommon. So, on the fly, I don't have anything in particularly like unique that I could suggest for that, but I would explore trying to stretch the area, right? If there are some joints there that are very like small at the connective point, where those back of those finger with the fingers there come connect into the base of the hand, if this is what's going on, I'd be looking at trying to distract them. Okay, so how can I create space in those joints? And if you're successful for identifying how to create that space, then I would load under resistance that particular expression, right? So, for example, if you find that bending the wrist forward just gently, you're able to create some space here across at the top of the back of the hand. Then I would think, how can I repeat that exercise with maybe a band where I would pull down and try and build strength whilst distracting. That combination is sweet. That's what we do for the wrists. It's what we do for the elbows. It's what we do for the shoulders, building strength under distraction. So I would like to have you explore that and maybe let me know in a month or so or earlier. Just send me an email, let me know whether or not that's been helpful, because I'm always learning too, and I've not seen that particular error before.
I'm open to doing these exercises that are painful. If I do them, then they're not painful anymore. If I do this, or if I do this, or if I do this, then the
Yeah.
pain goes away.
Yeah. So
So
can you do this one for me? Can you bend the wrist very forward? Yeah, no, just hold it forward. Just hold it forward. Yeah. I want you to continue to do that just for 20, 30 seconds twice a day, and then see how that particular problem area presents in the coming days. If you just do that and encourage it a little further down, and if there's a little bit of a feeling of strain in the top of that hand, I would feel good about that. I would think we might be onto something.
this is not painful in the least.
Awesome. Well, yep, explore it.
Very silly. Now, another thing I do, because there's a slight thing here.
Yep.
Well, I discovered only recently your suggestion of doing pulling exercises. I wasn't sure if I could still do those, but I found out from a therapist that that's okay. So for a different reason. But so I've been doing that. I've been doing more, what do you call them, rows and pull downs. And I stopped doing push-ups because you said pushing on the wrist is not so good. So I stopped the push-ups, but I started the pulling. And I can't tell so far. I've just recently, but it seems to be it doesn't hurt. It doesn't make it any worse. The other thing I might mention, was diagnosed also with I guess the osteoarthritis a little bit in my neck here, and just a couple months ago, and I thought, oh no, if this is rheumatoid arthritis, I don't want that. I don't want to lose my function of my neck and my. But it turns out it's not. It's the other kind of arthritis, and I've done some exercise therapy for that, Um, and it's much better. I don't notice it at all. So I don't know. It's maybe and that one apparently is just caused by age. It is, it's something you expect in your late 60s. It's sure kind of get that. So um, I don't know if it has any. It restricts the exercises I can do a little bit, but the pulling is okay. So
Good.
um,
So often it's the scale of the amount of stuff that we're doing that is our biggest opportunity, and not the actual that we're missing anything except just the scale. And what I mean by that is once you have decided you can repeat each day, feel good for you, then we just increase the load more and more and more. And there's no limit to the amount of strength that I expect from people that I work with in terms of wrist resilience, grip strength, elbow strength, shoulder strength. And eventually, I want everyone hanging from bars for 30 seconds. The people with the worst wrists, this is for you. This is what I'm expecting. And we just go there very slowly. We head towards that very gradually. We start out with the pull rows and the pull downs, exactly what you're doing. Load them more. So if you can do 15 to 20, it's too light. We want to increase the resistance so that you're struggling on your second set to do 12. Okay. Then we're in the business. Okay. Then you're building muscle, building strength, tendon strength around the wrist. Grip strength has to improve to hold onto that bar as you're lifting down, pulling down, or pulling towards you some serious weight. Your whole body develops more muscle mass and the joint pain goes down. Then we have graduated to being able to get under a bar and take some of our body weight and select the grip that feels best for the wrist, whether it be underhand, overhand, or neutral grip. And then we take more and more body weight. And then we return to this beautiful, exquisite expression of the human body that most of us have lost, which is just to hang from something above us, the same way our primate cousins with such similar DNA composition as us do on a daily basis effortlessly. And we can do from 2 years old. I've had all my kids 2 years old hanging from bars and it's trivial for them. And then we get older and we're like, oh, that seems like a big deal. That's only in the mind. The body knows how to do it and do it easily. We need to get back to that. So I love that you're doing the pulling. I love you doing the pull downs. Let's keep this direction going.
well, I'm very encouraged. I'm very grateful to you for this program. It really has worked. I've been amazed. I've recommended it to my wife, who has some. She doesn't have RA, but she has some autoimmune issues, which have improved dramatically. I don't know if it's entirely because of the program, but I looked at this in some ways. I did when I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. This, as far as my diet and the exercise, it's making me do things that I should do anyway. So a lot of people who have prostate cancer say prostate cancer is the best thing that ever happened to me because it forces them to do what they should do anyway, and possibly it saves them from cancer and from worse diseases. So I look at this as a wake up call or something. Um, I take it as a warning to improve my lifestyle and do what I should have done a long time ago.
What are some of your exciting future ambitions or projects or holidays or things that you're looking forward to now that you have confidence over your health?
Well, I like to walk. I walk on a daily basis. I do a lot of that. I like to go to the country and walk in the country. Um, my wife and I are building a house in the country, so I'm looking forward to that. I said we don't want to be immobile and I love being there. Well, here in the city where we live in the center of the town, I also like to walk. So, I'm very keen on that. It gives me a lot of pleasure. It helps me to think, and to think of things I haven't thought of before. So that's a lot of it. We travel a fair amount. I travel for work, and I like to travel. I spend a few days wherever I travel, having a little miniature holiday as well in France, places like France and Poland. And so that's basically it. My needs are simple. My ambitions are simple. Um, but you know, and, I guard them as jealously, as fiercely as I can.
And what about if someone's watched this and they think, wow, I wish, you know, I could feel better? What would you say to them? Obviously, we've talked about the program, but let's talk about something a little bit more mindset, or a little bit of an insight about the way to approach this disease that perhaps you've developed that you wish you'd have known before.
Well, don't deny it. Don't postpone it. I was diagnosed for about a year. I wasn't diagnosed. I had the symptoms for about a year before I really got a diagnosis. I think I had a test, an X-ray, and the X-ray technician kind of said, "Well, this is probably not rheumatoid arthritis. It's probably the other kind, the osteoarthritis, which is kind of inevitable at my age a little bit." So I didn't do anything again for about a year. I said, "Oh, it's just osteoarthritis." And I don't think it got a whole lot worse, but it did a bit. I think it might have been better if I'd started early. Um, so don't deny. If you got something wrong, look out for it. I think find out what it is. Don't postpone. I think a lot of men, especially, feel like they got to tough it out, and rather than going to the doctor for every little ailment. But I think when you get to be 65, which I was at that point, you shouldn't you should jettison that philosophy and just see the things right away.
What has your rheumatologist said? The one who gave you originally prescriptions for, I believe, methotrexate, and correct me if I'm wrong and left something out there. Um, what has been your latest guidelines from your rheumatologist?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. The first rheumatologist I went to immediately prescribed methotrexate, and I guess I had already looked into it a little at that point, and I knew what the side effects were. And it felt like like she was doing it in a very kind of robotic, automatic way. And I was very skeptical about it. I was a bit skeptical. This was at the time with the COVID. I was becoming, like a lot of people, a little skeptical about the medical profession generally. And so I was determined not to do this. Not to take these medications unless I really had to, and the pain wasn't that bad. Um, After following the program, I saw a different rheumatologist who had also recommended the methotrexate early on. But this time she was much more sympathetic. I said, I followed this diet program, by the way, which neither one of them had ever heard of. I was quite shocked about this. The idea that you can control this through diet seemed like a completely foreign concept to them, and I was just they're shocked by this. But the second one was more sympathetic. I even asked her at one point, "Shall I take the methotrexate because of this persistent problem?" And she said, "I'll give you a prescription for a reduced dose. I think it was 10 milligrams instead of 15, which I guess is already very low. And if you need it." But but she said, "No, I don't think at this point. I don't think it's necessary." So she said, "You've got the disease. The number showed that you have the active disease there, but 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 the X-rays are not like bad, as I remember." She said. So she said she went along with it, and she said, I've stayed off it entirely. Now, there was one time when I had that pain in July. I did go to a doctor, a different doctor, and I got a temporary painkiller. So I I took a painkiller for one night, and it killed the pain for a couple of days, and I felt better. But so I don't try not to do that often. But I thought that was better than taking a regular, than undergoing the side effects, which are there. So I'm determined to follow the exercise, and I should do the probiotics um and the supplements as well. And I should get more aggressively in the light. I'm determined to do that and stay off medication as much as possible.
If we don't do the meds, we have to do everything else perfectly because it's such a Godzilla of diseases that we don't have much wriggle room for error if we're not taking meds. It gets easier. So, for example, for me, I had pancakes the other day for breakfast. My kids, when they have birthday parties, including myself, or birthdays, I should say, we have chocolate cake, vegan chocolate cake. I eat that. I have a soda once every couple of months, a sip of a soda from one of the kids or something. Nothing happens. We eat out at restaurants. I have bean burritos, shiitake mushroom burritos. I eat at Indian restaurants, and nothing happens. But dare not I go and eat at KFC or a fast food chain or something that's got deep fried industry grade oils that are reheated over and over again, because I'm not that robust. So how far can we get? Yeah, well, I'd be wanting you to absolutely, completely get rid of those symptoms that you have remaining. That should be the objective, and I wouldn't stop until you get there. But then if you continue to do what you're doing and exhibit this sense of control over your condition the way that you've established, then I see you, hitting all of your goals with this and maybe even more. So it's very exciting. How much do you appreciate the significance of the bullet that you've dodged compared to the typical pathway that most people go down?
Well, I was blessed with a very mild version of the disease. I think I told this happens to me when it comes on older. Um, I didn't come into my mid-50s. So I've been blessed with that. I've had a good life so far, and it's still a sacrifice, a minor sacrifice, as well. So, I'm very, like I said, it's requiring me something I should be doing anyway at my age, or at any age group. I'm grateful for that. It's not, I'm so sorry for myself for, um, uh, and I know, I hope for people who are struggling more than I am.
Yeah, lovely words and a great way to end us right here with our chat. Is there anything we've left out? Do you feel that we've overlooked something or skipped something that you've been wanting to share?
Well, no, I think we covered it more or less. But like I said, I'm grateful to you for devoting yourself to this program, and I'm sure you've it's clear that you helped a lot of people, and you helped me. So, God bless
Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate it very much. Keep up the amazing work, and thanks for sharing your story today on this episode. If you've enjoyed this episode, head over to rheumatoidsolutions.com where you can see the transcription. Also, you can watch the video, of course, or listen to the podcast as you may have been doing. And we also upload this to YouTube. So thanks very much, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks again to Stephen sharing today of his wonderful transformation with his rheumatoid arthritis and the avoidance of methotrexate and bringing his C-reactive protein down from a high of 30 milligram per liter down to currently 2 milligrams per liter. Thanks for listening.